I'm Sean Reynolds, the owner of Summit Properties Northwest and Reynolds Kline Appraisal. And if you are getting a divorce, don't skip the home appraisal. And here's why. So a relationship that ends with a divorce is every couple's worst nightmare. And not only do you have to deal with the emotional trauma of kind of removing your life from the other person, you also have to split up everything down the middle as far as your assets go. And typically the home is the biggest asset most people have. And so getting an appraisal on that home is one of the most critical things you can do in the divorce process. In every divorce, all of the belongings get split down the middle or something close to that. And the only real fair way to split up a home is either to have one of the spouses cash out the other one or sell the property. In either case, you need to know the home's value. And that's one of the most important reasons you get a home appraisal. Attorneys and real estate brokers who specialize in divorce situations, they will often refer you to a real estate appraiser to get an appraisal on your home. That way there isn't the question of this person's getting more of the equity, that person's getting more of the equity. There is a third party brought in to do the valuation, and that's the number that you work with. Also, in case your divorce goes wildly off track and you end up in trial, the first thing a judge is going to want to see is an appraisal that determines the value of the home. That's what they always look for. They're not going to look for a competitive market analysis. They're not going to look at tax assessed value. They're basically going to look at an appraisal if they've got one. So if you've got an appraisal by a reputable appraiser, that's what everybody's going to run with, and that's why we typically recommend get an appraisal done by a certified appraiser. And also make sure that that appraiser is referred to you by somebody within your sphere, whether it's your real estate broker, whether it's your attorney, whether it's a trusted friend or family member. Get a referral for the appraiser. And so I've already kind of hit on the basic ways that a divorce goes. There's two options. One is one of the homeowners, one of the spouses keeps the home and they cash the other out. The other is that you list the property and sell it. So list the property and sell it. That one's pretty basic. You get a real estate agent involved. They maybe hire the appraiser, get the list price, both parties agree. Okay, there's that. What if one of the parties has to cash out the other party? What does that look like? So if one of the spouses is buying out the other spouse, that means they'll probably need to get a new mortgage. And that can be really tricky because that new mortgage will be under the income of just the one person. So that gets really tough. If you're in a two-person income household and now you've gone down to one person, income gets split. So that's why a lot of the times it's easier just to sell the home, each person gets their proceeds, and everybody moves on separately. So some of the situations that I've run across as an appraiser doing divorce work, there will be 2 appraisals completed, maybe even 3 appraisals completed for a tiebreaker. Oftentimes, husband will have his attorney order an appraisal, wife will have their attorney order an appraisal, and if those 2 appraisals are pretty far apart, then they order a third appraisal to kind of be the tiebreaker or to give an idea of, all right, maybe we're closer to this one or we're closer to this one as far as valuation goes. So oftentimes I will not be the first appraiser in, or if I am the first one, I might not be the last one, because if a property is worth a lot of money, there's big numbers considered within the appraisal valuation in a divorce scenario. And so oftentimes there are multiple appraisers involved. Within the overall appraisal process, keep in mind that the appraiser is a disinterested third party who is hired to provide a value. They are not representing one party or the other. So there's no emotion involved for the appraiser. They're just going out to appraise a home that they know could be contentious because things are really upsetting when people are getting a divorce. And the main thing I can say is just understand that the appraisal process is the appraiser is doing their best to provide you an independent value regardless of what you've got going on with your relationship. They are there just to get you a value so that you can move on with either the buyout process or with selling the home. So that's really about it for the topic of getting a home appraisal if you're in the process of getting a divorce. Again, I would highly recommend right out of the chute, get an appraisal done to establish value, because the home is typically the biggest asset that you have. And that way, as you get through the divorce process, there just isn't a question as to what the home's value is. You've got at least one point of reference that says, as of this given date, the home was worth X, Y, Z. You can always argue or change that later down the road, but at least you've got a starting point. So hire a certified appraiser or a state licensed appraiser that comes as a referral from somebody that you know, and go from there. All right, I hope this has been helpful. Again, I'm Sean Reynolds, the owner of Summit Properties Northwest and Reynolds Kline Appraisal. Thanks again for watching this video. We'll catch you in the next one. Bye.